This episode is not sponsored by Dr. Pepper, but it's not too late. Call me.
I'm looking at 9 to 5 to start with.
Oh yeah? You got some shit to say, huh?
Well, I mean, both of these were tremendous films in wildly different ways.
Yeah. Okay. Well, go ahead and do the intro.
Before I do the intro, I do just want to ask, did Candyman land on you?
Well,
the
okay.
Backstory and everything that came with it.
I did not enjoy the experience, but as far as a movie goes, yes, I can appreciate how in its genre it did well. And I gotta say, I did when I first started watching it, and I walked in nervous because I knew what I was getting in for, and it's not my usual thing. But when I saw the credit come up saying that it was based off of a Clive Barker short story, I was like, oh, okay, this is probably going to be interesting.
Hellraiser,
yeah. Clive Barker is the man, and I've read a few of his short stories, and I think one of his books, although I can't remember which one. I was in like junior high when I read his stuff, so I know the man does quality stuff, and so that alleviated some of my anxiety going in, is seeing his name in the credits.
Hate to do this to you, but we're gonna do that all over again when we reach over to Candyman, because I was just looking for a yes or a no.
Oh, okay.
Welcome to Heist. I'm Bradley Hackworth, joined by Jonathan Ems. Now, this week we're going to be covering 9 to 5 and Candyman. Loved both of these movies for wildly different reasons. Doc, you pushed 9 to 5 on me. Mm-hmm. You want to give us the synopsis?
Well, I did not know the synopsis correctly when I first pushed this movie. Now that I've seen it, I'm more refreshed. 9 to 5 is a working girls comedy. You've got Dolly Parton, Lily Tomlin, Jane Fonda, all in different stages of a career in the 80s office life, and they have an absolute piece of shit boss. And to just sort of wrap around without having to basically describe the whole movie, one of them kind of accidentally sort of tries to kill him. And things happen from there.
That's exactly correct. Like, accidentally, sort of, kind of. Yes.
Yeah.
That is completely spot on. All right.
But yeah, this was a wild ride. I had very, very tertiary years ago memories of this movie. Someone was talking about Dolly Parton in another podcast I was listening to, and I was like, we should do 9 to 5, because that was my introduction to Dolly Parton. That's how I knew who she was.
Many people's. This was her film debut.
Was it her debut? Okay.
It was.
I guess that makes sense, yeah. But, well, I mean, she was an established country music star by this point, so yeah. If you're our age, that was our introduction to Dolly Parton, I guess, yeah.
Sure. I mean, yeah, like a lot of us, we were familiar with her music and everything like that, but we weren't familiar with Dolly like that.
Mm-hmm. Favorite part, I think my favorite part, and I know I'm jumping ahead here, but my favorite part about Dolly Parton's, now I know, film debut is that in her first scene, in her introductory scene, even Jane Fonda can't stop staring at her boobs. Like,
oh yeah, no, I got that moment in here. All right, so let me get into it. All right, 9 to 5, directed by Colin Higgins, written by Patricia Resnick, the story, and Colin Higgins, the screenplay, starring Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin, and Dolly Parton, with Dabney Coleman, Elizabeth Wilson, Henry Jones, Lawrence Pressman, and Peggy Pope.
And while we're at it,
how many Dabney people, Coleman? Why was he not in more stuff?
Well, he was in a fair bit. I think he just retired pretty early. Like, he hasn't been in anything in like the last 15 or so years. But I already had another movie on my list that stars Dabney Coleman. And
same, but way too close to this.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm putting
like,
it on the
literally,
back burner as well.
It has all 4 of these actors in it.
Really, that's pretty good.
And
but yeah, how many people do you think he fought to the death for this role? Because when you take a look at what he got to do in this movie,
Oh God,
you know there had to have been an all-out blood sport over who got to play this part.
I don't know, because like Jane Fonda loved working with Dabney Coleman so much that they continued working together in movies after this. Like,
that's a good point.
they love Dabney Coleman. Like, whoever he is, they freaking adore him. So why he left, whatever reason he stopped or anything like that, I don't know, because I love him and his co-stars love him. Like,
the last thing I can remember seeing Dabney Coleman in was Hot to Trot. Did you ever see that one?
I'd have to look it up to check it out. I think
can't
the last
remember
one that I actually full on remember him in was the Beverly Hillbillies movie.
Oh, that's right. He was Mr. Drysdale. I forgot about that. God, he nailed that too. He was
And
so
Lily
good.
Tomlin plays his assistant, and oh my God, that dynamic was amazing.
Oh, they were brilliant. Oh, yeah. God, now I got to see that again.
I know, that was the movie that was on my list that actually has all of these actors in it. Jane Fonda's in there too. Dolly Parton makes a cameo. Like, literally all four of the stars of this movie are in there.
That's awesome. Okay, yeah.
So much fun. So, like we said earlier, this was Dolly Parton's film debut, number 78 on the list of 100 funniest movies of all time.
Yeah.
And a little bit of historical. Well, I guess all of these are historical. But this is the first female-led film to gross over $100 million.
All right.
Straight out of the 70s, going into the 80s, literally the year 1980 and the turn of the decade, one of the two biggest films of that year, 100% female-led.
And what a powerhouse set it was, because you've got Dolly Parton. She's probably the one that is, you know, her big breakout moment, especially with the song that she wrote for it, which remained a top 10 hit for fuck knows how long. Everybody knows the lyrics to that song.
40 years?
I don't care how old you are. You sing along to this song. You know it.
Ever since you told me that you wanted to cover this movie, the song's been stuck in my head ever since last week. So when I sat down to watch it, I finally got the satisfaction of actually hearing it, and I was like,
right, yeah, it's great. They just go right into it, yeah.
They never stop. They play it like 12 times.
They knew they had a hit on their hands. And then you got Lily Tomlin, who she's been an established comedy figure for years. She was doing Saturday Night Live, and then I can't remember what she did after Saturday Night Live, but I know she was also doing.
We're talking before my era.
Okay, and then you got Jane Fonda, who is Jane Fonda. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like you can't, she was already, Barbarella, like, 10 years before this, and then has just had an illustrious career already. I mean, I know, right?
Yeah. I saw that at Hollywood in the Park. Is that what it's called?
Oh, yeah. Okay. That must have been an interesting night. Yeah.
Like 3 massive movie screens all playing like Barbarella in like this wide setting. Everybody out there just sitting on the grass getting drunk, seeing Jane Fonda's
whole thing.
Wild.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know how to describe that safely.
Right, yeah.
But good movie.
Yeah.
Barbarella. Yeah. That'll rope you in, and it doesn't really let you go.
No, it really doesn't.
Like,
yeah,
you got a couple cringy moments and stuff like that. Where I was like, oh god,
right, because it's low budget 70s sci-fi. It's gonna get weird. Yes,
yeah. But it still holds. It holds. It weirdly, really still holds up 50 years later.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, yep. And that's what I think is very interesting because in this role, she's playing she's so outside of. Like, she's the nerdiest, most mousy character in this movie. Mm-hmm. She is very not Jane Fonda in this role, and I think that's kind of what was most amazing about it, is that you've got these 3 massive powerhouses. Yeah,
that's very, very true, because immediately, like, we jump into this opening on the classic tune and everyone on the way to work, having the doors close on Fonda was like that kind of comedy. Also, the doors closing like that, you don't really get that anymore because of everybody knows of the safety regulations of elevators, so that kind of comedy doesn't really play anymore. So that is an of its era type thing. And watching her be mousy, you are immediately watching her perform, because that is not her. That is not her at all. Not in any interview I've ever seen, not in any movie I've ever seen. She is not mousy. She is powerful.
Yep.
So that, like, her performance started immediately, and it just kept carrying. Then we get our intro into Lily Tomlin as Violet Newstead, which, did you notice that all of their names are based off of their real names?
No, I didn't notice that. I did notice that Jane Fonda's...
Jane is Judy.
Okay.
Lily is Violet. So they just kept it as two flowers.
Right, yeah.
And then Dolly is Doralee.
Right, yeah. Which just kind of goes to show it is very likely that this movie was like written for them.
It was written for them.
They all got together, said, let's make this movie, and then the screenwriter was just like, all right, I'll just make it they probably even wrote it as Jane, Lily, and Dolly, and they had to like quick change it, before they started filming, probably.
Too perfect. I mean,
yeah.
like literally, I have no problem believing that because the characters were them.
Yeah.
Like, well, except for Jane Fonda. That, like, Violet is Lily Tomlin.
Yeah.
Straight
Absolutely.
up,
yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So, taking that into consideration, like, I really did enjoy that. We get the expo dump, and Fonda's been a housewife this whole time. Tomlin had a
widowed
career.
housewife.
Huh?
A widowed housewife.
I missed that.
Yeah. That was one of the first lines is when she's complaining about Jane being hired, about having this new person, and her boss is telling her like, "Hey, take it easy on her. She's just recently divorced." And Lily Tomlin goes like, "Well, my husband died. Would you be, if he had just divorced me, would you be helping me out this way?" She's like, "I've been raising 4 kids with my husband dead this whole time." So she's a widowed single mom of 4 kids.
How did I completely miss that? I must have been taking a note at that time. Yeah,
that was her whole speech. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, they're all in different stages of career and different stages of family. You've got widowed, you got divorced, but no kids apparently, widowed with 4 kids, and happily married Dolly with no kids, just in a marital. She's the one who's in marital bliss apparently.
Well, yeah, she doesn't have no kids.
Right.
This is what I really liked about Lily. Like her character when she meets Roz, the company spy, and her double entendres as she's going through this, they are so subtle that I almost missed them, and I'm a little bit worried that I actually did miss a couple of them, because she's like when she takes the like it gets the report, she's like, "Yep, and I know just where to stick it." The way she says it, if I would have said that, I would have sounded like an asshole. She didn't. Talented. Right, yeah. Oh my god. Then they go talking about the boss and, what's he like? And then right to Dabney Coleman. And, oh my God, how good he plays this sleazy character. How uncomfortable he made me. But yet how much levity was to it at the exact same time. That is skill.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I was enjoying the hell out of that. Then, of course, you had to give him the forename. Like, the forename name.
Oh, yeah.
Franklin M. Hart Jr. Which, the fact that the paper perfectly covered it up to make it Fart Jr. Set design. Oh my God, you crushed it.
Mm-hmm. And how many times do you think Lily Tomlin had to do that move where she covered it perfectly to show in one shot, not even looking at it?
Okay, if it was me, probably 15,000 takes. Her, I don't know, 5.
Yep.
Realistically. His dialogue in this. Man. The full misogyny, the full, 70s, 80s, the whole description over what women in the workplace go through, all that, completely on display right here. Yep. So much so to the point that the line of dialogue is, "We're going to cut the balls off the competition. Me sitting pretty right on top of you." It's like, way to not even try to be subtle, buddy.
Yep.
Damn. No, oh yeah. Kept just calling her, calling this a damn pretty one, and then forcing her to shop for his wife, but he's having her buy a gift for Dolly because he sexually harassed her at a Oh no, he did. There was no convention. He tried to lure her to a convention, and she's like, "Oh, it's my fault that I didn't. Next time I get invited to a convention, it's on me. I have to check to make sure that there is a convention." It's like,
right, yeah. Like the unfolding of that, the unfolding of that dialogue was amazing, and
it really was, like, because it just like every word that came out of her mouth, you hated him so much more. And
she's
like the whole time,
so pleasant about it.
He's panicking, like everything, like it's a modern day lawsuit, and he just entered the Me Too movement and everything like that. Like he's like how much he's panicking. I was like, dude, this scene is.
But the thing is he's not even so much panicking as much as he is begging, because for him it's not even a matter. It's not even a matter of that he could actually get in trouble for this. Because we find out later on, he's been telling everybody that they are sleeping together and they're not. So he needs her to start sleeping with him before anyone finds out they're not. And he's desperate for it.
Oh, God, yeah. And everybody's reaction when they find that out, that was great.
That whole scene is fantastic, yeah.
I know, I missed this moment because we've already been talking about it. But my note was just, hello, Dolly.
Right, yes.
All the charm in the entire world. Like, I don't know how you ever seen that meme that just says, when you see a picture of Dolly Parton in the 70s, there's really only one question that comes to mind. What the fuck did Jolene look like?
Right. Yeah, what the hell was Jolene bringing? Yeah, exactly, yep.
Yeah, if you had Dolly and you're stepping out, who was Jolene?
Yep.
Wildly curious about that, and I never really thought about that until I saw that meme, and I was like, that's a good point. Then we get Dolly and Fonda.
You know my theory is?
Oh, what?
I think Dolly was Jolene. She was just writing the song from the other perspective. That's my theory.
Moving on. I think because oh man, that makes all the sense in the world. That could be completely spot on. That could be completely accurate, 100%. I don't know.
I don't know either. That's
but
just
I don't want to see Dolly in that light. She is America's sweetheart, and it's not gonna stop.
You're absolutely 100% right. Yes.
So Fonda and Dolly talking as Dolly gives her a little bit of a tour. And then Fonda walks away and just kind of looks down at her chest. Which, yeah, if you're walking away from Dolly Parton, that might happen.
Jane Fonda feeling meek about herself is something only Dolly Parton could do.
I mean, but it's Dolly. She has like 5 women's breasts in her bra. It is... and she doesn't have the figure to match that.
No, it is extremely disproportionate. That's for sure.
Not to be, I'm gonna be wildly insulting, but I don't mean to be. Usually, if you know somebody who has boobs that big, they're accompanied by a 46-inch waist. Like, that's usually how that goes. They don't look like Dolly.
No.
Not without, like, surgical enhancements and everything like that.
Yep.
Like, way different situation. Is 46 big? I feel like that's big. Like, I meant to say big, but did I just alienate, like, average people?
You know, I honestly don't know. I've never been good at that.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens there. Gossiping turns into exposition. 1, I did like that mechanic, but 2, I fucking hate gossiping. Even in movies. I hate watching it. I hate, like, it's just... Instantly, I'll hate your character every time.
Yeah.
Like, that's just doesn't work for me. We talked about this a little bit. Dolly casually brushing off his sexual harassment, and like, yeah, that's why he set her off on shopping to do all that. And then finding out that he's like, come to a convention with me, and then there wasn't a convention, and then she starts blaming herself on the fact that she didn't actually look into the fact that there was a convention or not.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, I don't think we're supposed to think that she's actually blaming herself, because she does talk about it.
No. She is manipulating him. Like, she's handling him. She's trying to keep her job. That's the situation.
She says that later on. She's like, look, I put up with your shit because I need this job, but this is the last straw. She literally says it right out loud.
Yeah, and she just pats him on the head, not literally, but she just lets him off the hook like, oh, I've been chased by men more wily than you, and all this. And it's like,
yep,
shoot them. Because more wily than him, those are dudes who wind up in prison.
Yeah.
Like,
the fact that he's not in prison already is a little bit of a, well, I mean, it's not a miracle. He is rich and it is the 70s. So,
there is that. But then him just trying to buy her off and get away with the sexual harassment. I couldn't really tell what I was looking at in that moment, whether he was trying to buy her off or if he was just trying to buy her. But
I think he's
trying
to buy her. I think that's what it is. I think I don't think he feels caught or bad about the convention thing at all. I think he's literally just still trying. I don't think...
I think you're right. I tossed some modern stuff on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then his wife shows up, Missy, and in my mind I was like, okay, is she as sweet as she appears, or is the door gonna shut and she's just gonna instantly start attacking Dolly like once she's on the other side of the door? Like, that's what I was expecting, but no, she actually was just as sweet as she came across.
And apparently oblivious. Like, that's the weird thing. Is like all the way to the very end of the movie, this woman is completely fucking clueless as to what her husband is up to, despite everything she saw.
Yeah, no, that was a big part of that. Fonda plays innocent just so well, and Dolly walks out with the scarf, and Fonda's like, oh, that's the scarf you bought. Like, all that, like, delightful. I mean,
yeah.
For Fonda's performance, very few laugh out loud moments from Fonda in this.
But the ones she
delight
got
the entire time through.
Yeah. And it's great too, because like I said, they're all in their different point of their careers, and I think that's kind of like the fun role that Fonda has in this, is that she's someone who, this is literally her first job ever. She got married, she's been a housewife. Now that she's divorced, she needs a job. So literally the entire work office experience is completely new to her. And so, of course, she's the first one to point out all of the crazy shit that everyone else in the office is completely desensitized to. So she's the one jumping up going like, what is happening? You can't do this. And they're all like, slow your roll, new girl. Like,
yep, that is 100%.
Yeah.
That copy scene, I'm not going to lie. If they started going awry in that situation, I'd probably panic too, because I was looking at that copy. I'm like, yes, there is a big red X button to cancel it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if this is your first job, you literally have never worked with technology, because this was the 70s. Printers, people didn't have printers at home on the average and everything like that. Copy machines, that wasn't something that you learned in high school and all that stuff.
Right.
Like, this was
newer
technology.
And what this was is, this scene was a brilliant homage to both the chocolate factory scene from I Love Lucy, combined with Charlie Chaplin's Modern Times.
Very much. It was very Chaplin.
It was a brilliant little combination of these two things, and they just handed it to Fonda, and she did brilliantly with it. It was a great scene.
It really was. But then Coleman shows up to just be a dick. But then there's like, I kind of struggled with it, because yes, he showed up and he was way too much of a dick. He didn't need to be that harsh. But at the same time, there was a big red X button right next to it. And it's like, I kind of see his point, but dude, first day, show some patience here, man. First day.
And here's the thing. I have been there. All right. I have worked in offices. I have worked with people with, even by today's standards, with no technological experience. And let me tell you, sometimes you do not actually see the big red X in the moment like that. You are just panicking, and you are just going, oh my God, what do I do with all these papers that are spitting out? I've seen it. I literally, like, the last office job I worked, I literally became the only person who could make the copier work on my first day. Because
back in Pineapple Hell?
Yes. Like, day one, I'm the guy they come to be like, hey, you got it to work last time. Can you do this again? And I was like, oh, no. But it was too late. I was already there.
You became pivotal.
Yes. But yeah, the sometimes in the moment it just and you got to be patient. You know, I learned that because it was my boss asking me for help, so I couldn't tell him what the fuck's wrong with you, big red X. That was not an option for me.
Yeah, not so much. You got to show a little what, teamwork, participation. What are we looking at on that one?
Team player. I think was the
That's the one they always go with. Yeah.
Yep.
No. Oh, speaking of Fonda's divorce, or not Fonda, but Judy. Right. So happy to see Dick until that's not the case. I'm sorry, but the way that her facial expression when she's like, Dick.
Right.
I'm like, wait, what? And I was like, oh God, yeah, that's some people's names, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like,
well, in fact, that's what's interesting is that one of Jane Fonda's previous movies, and I should have checked to see if this was the same actor, but I assumed this was kind of an homage to that. She was in a movie like maybe 5 years before this called Fun with Dick and Jane.
I was gonna ask about that, like, because I couldn't remember if she was in the original, because the remake, what was that, like Tia Leone and Jim Carrey?
I know it was Jim Carrey. I can't remember who played Jane. I think you might be right about Tia Leone.
Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, I can't remember. Somebody like that.
I did see the Jim Carrey remake of it, and I thought it was okay. It was all right. I never saw the original though. I just
didn't stand out in my mind. Like I know I watched it. I've seen every single movie Jim Carrey's ever done. I can't remember it, so I can't really call it that great of a movie.
It wasn't one of his classics. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we get one of those clucking hens. And let's be real, I'm not going to call every woman a clucking hen or anything like that. But if you show me a gossiping group of like colorful, big-haired, everything, no, clucking hens. That's literally, it's perfect, and I completely agree with it. But the one that was played, I think was it Margaret? I have to go back to the name. Peggy Pope.
Margot.
She is one of the only. She's the only actor. Yeah, she is the only actor to cross over from the movie into the series. Her character stayed the same, the actor stayed the same. She was the only one that did that. The only difference is in the movie she's a lush. In the series she was not.
I had forgotten they made the series. I completely forgot that existed.
I never even knew about it.
Huh.
I found out about it today.
How many seasons did it go?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I just know it exists. I didn't go that far into it. But did you watch the series? Is that something you knew about?
I don't remember. I just remember knowing that it was a thing back in the day. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I ever actually watched it. My parents might have seen it a couple of times, and or something like that. I guess it kind of depends on when it was on the air. I'd have to remember which stage of my life I was in there, if that was something my parents would have been watching at that time,
So Dolly trying to befriend Fonda gives the impression that no one likes her, and the very next scene absolutely confirms that. And man, my heart was breaking for Dolly. I mean, she's awesome, she's kind, she's charming, she's beautiful, she's like,
she's trying her best.
She has so many things going for her, but some of the things that are going for her are actively working against her. Being that confident, having that kind of charm, being that beautiful, that will set some people around you off. Yeah.
And it only, especially when we find out the boss has been spreading rumors that they're sleeping together. She's giving them no reason to doubt that.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
because
I felt just, even when they cut back to it, because they cut back and she still can't find anybody to eat with. Like, my heart was hurting for her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it seemed like you had something to say, would you?
Did I? If I did, I forgot it.
Oh, fair enough. All right, moving on. This is another one of those examples of the double entendres that we keep getting. And when Roz shows up, like, did you read the memo? She's like, yes, I did. I tore right through it. The writing just kept slapping me with how good it was. I was enjoying the hell out of this. Then when they go into the elevator and you see Coleman pitching Tomlin's idea to his boss and taking credit for it,
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, are you guys going up?" And Tomlin just feisty shit. "No, we're going down." It's like, "Oh yeah, oh okay." Like, damn. Everybody's like, "I'm getting drunk." Dolly goes off on him, and she's like, "I need a drink too." But the way that Dolly actually does go off on him.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. That was yeah. I've got a gun. I've got a gun in my purse, and if you ever do this again, I'm bringing it in here, and I'm going to turn you from a rooster into a hen. Like, holy shit! That was no double entendre. That was a fucking threat.
That was yes, flat out pure, and I was there for it.
Totally, yeah. It was a great
I loved
scene.
it. Like, so yeah, you had that lush lady that I need a drink. Atta girl. I'm going to drink. Atta girl. I'm out of here. Atta girl. Like, she had so few lines in this movie, but every time she opened her mouth, it was hilarious.
Yep.
Which
For a minor character, she was extremely memorable.
there was a little bit of kind of a flashback to the past about, I forgot that the way that people talk about marijuana now, and they're like, it's medicinal. People used to say that shit about alcohol. I completely forgot about that. Grandpa's old cough syrup.
Yep.
No, I could, like, weirdly watch it. Like, when she said that line, that flashed a lot of memories back about, like, old terminology. That was kind of cool, and I appreciated that. Having Lily Tomlin at the bar being the pusher man for the joint that her son rolled for her.
That was a line that really, like, especially while they're all kind of like she's like, "Oh shit, I have a joint here," and they're in the bar, and it's like, and it's 1980. It is really, really illegal to have this shit back then. So this is like a big deal to have this in a movie, and and I love even like
I don't know. Well, you gotta like because Reagan was the one who really went after that stuff, and we were in history we were about to go into the Reagan years in the 70s.
True,
yeah, weed was illegal, but nobody gave a shit.
No, it's true. The war on drugs had not really started yet. That is true, but it was still something. Yeah, but I did like when Fonda's just like, "Is that a marijuana cigarette?" And Lily Tomlin's reaction is like, "Keep it down. We don't have enough for everyone."
Yep. Not that it's illegal.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. But I also
Great
love
line.
it. So that like this was a line that was improv from her when they asked like, "What is it?" She's like, "Oh, it's Maui Wowie." That was improv. And you know that's what she was smoking on her free time.
Oh, absolutely,
I mean,
yes.
come on.
It's Lily Tomlin, people. Come on.
But the full giggle fit in the imagination sequence, I bet that that Dolly Parton story about the gun in her purse and everything like that, I bet that was a true story. I bet it. I would be willing to put money on that.
I would too, yes. It would not shock me at all. It would not shock me at all, no. I did
but
appreciate
it fits into the story so perfectly that
that's the thing, yeah. And I did appreciate how like that was kind of like it turns out all of their fantasies of what they dream about doing to the boss all turn into foreshadowing because exactly what they imagine
100%.
is exactly what happens.
Donald Trump watched this movie and then wrote the book The Secret.
Wait. Are you implying that Donald Trump wrote The Secret?
Okay, all right. I'll give you that. But this, I did really like as they were going through, like as they were smoking weed and as they were having their giggle fit. You're right. All three of them get to have their fantasy displayed, which I thought was just kind of a fun little thing. Until about 5 minutes later, and I was like, oh shit. Every single one of them gets to live out the fantasy that they actually did. So literally, they knew the secret, and then somebody else wrote a book about it.
Well, I'll tell you what I found interesting too about those fantasies when they're sitting there telling their fantasies. When we go into Jane Fonda's fantasy, and he's being hunted down by everybody in the office, goes into his office to hide, and she's there, all in full hunter regalia with a shotgun. Not only, but in what's the character's name again? Jill?
Coleman's character?
No, Jane Fonda's character.
Judy.
In Judy's fantasy, she's Jane Fonda. because in that scene she becomes Jane Fonda again. She's all very confident, standing up straight. She puts on her sultry voice like that. Like all of a sudden, like in Judy's fantasy world, she becomes Jane Fonda, and I thought that was really funny.
So I mean, Dolly's fantasy completely made sense. Jane Fonda's fantasy kind of came out of left field, but it worked. Tomlin's also came out of left field, but it very much worked. Watching Lily Tomlin play Snow White was...
I remember...
Come on.
Seeing that scene caused a flashback for me because it reminded me of how I saw this movie for the first time. My parents were watching it on cable, and I happened to wander into the room while that scene was playing. And so I thought they were watching a Disney movie without me, and immediately sat down. And my parents were like, no. And I was like, but...
There's cartoons on a TV.
Yeah, it's like, who are you fooling here, people? This is clearly my movie you're watching.
But so dark. Like how happy the little animated animals were when he was drinking the poison and dying.
Right.
Like, this is wildly dark. This is beyond dark.
She
this
literally
is awesome.
Launches him out a window in a 20-story building and watches him go splat on the ground.
But then, like they say, what's the line? What's the line? I know you know it. That he says right before going out the window.
Oh, they said it like 4 times, and I'm because I'm a self-involved, sexist, egotistical, lying bigot. Was that it?
It had a good flow to it. But whatever it was, when they released this on DVD, that's what it's called. The lying, manipulative, egotistical, whatever edition.
Nice.
So I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
They go back to the office, and Tomlin is just getting more and more furious, and she is just getting fired up and feisty, and that's when she thinks she's grabbing the sugar, and she winds up grabbing the rat poison instead. And the most narrow of misses. And this is what you were talking about, where she sort of, kind of, almost poisons him, because what happens is, she does put the rat poison in the coffee and delivers the coffee to him. But, we forgot to mention this. Previously in the movie, his chair kept like throwing him off and sending him back.
Right, there's some there's some kind of spring mechanism, and it's great because you even hear like this weird sort of boing sound effect happen just before his chair pitches backwards, and it's happened like twice before, and he keeps yelling about it. He's like, "God damn it!" Like. The first time it happens was brilliant because he's right in the middle of a really serious "I'm the boss" speech, and then he's like, "And we here at this company, dang, boom," and he's just like, "God damn it!" Like, brilliant freaking comedy that you do that because it was delivered so well, you do not register it as foreshadowing at all.
Yep, Coleman did a great job with that. He really did.
Absolutely, yeah.
And this was the moment. So he goes in, he tries to take a drink of the coffee, but his chair goes off, sends him off onto the floor. He knocks himself out. So the coffee's on the ground, it's empty, looks like he drank it. So like Tomlin 100% thinks that she poisoned her boss.
Yeah.
And she goes into full reaction mode.
This is where this movie goes off the fucking rails. I mean,
see, this is like kind of thing. Like this is where like the movie really begins.
Right, yes. Okay, and just real quick,
I'm glad that we had... What was it? Go ahead.
Sexist, egotistical, lying, hypocritical bigot.
So, when the edition came out, it was the
9 to 5 sexist, egotistical, lying, hypocritical bigot edition. Yes.
Which, outstanding.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
because it is.
They really nailed it with that.
It was poetic, and you could tell they were really proud of that and enjoyed saying it because they say that exact set of phrases like 5 times throughout the movie. They really loved it for good reason. It did have a cadence to it.
It did. I really did. And I enjoyed it. The rush to the hospital for a massive misunderstanding. Because he wakes up, he's like, I'm not getting all these tests, I'm not getting wrapped up into your racket and all this stuff. So he just walks out. And then there just happens to be some mobster dude who gets poisoned, and the police are there to just really hammer it home for the double misunderstanding for Tomlin.
Why? Yeah, watching, and this is where we get, excuse me, this is where we get full comedic brilliance from Lily Tomlin, as she just has an utter breakdown through all of this. She's panicking, she's swooning, she's spouting out crazy ideas, and you have two foils here. You've got you've got Jane Fonda and Dolly Parton both basically trying to play the straight man against Lily Tomlin, and they're barely holding it up. They can barely hold their own against the grand comedic panic that is Lily Tomlin.
I don't know how they didn't break 100 times. Like,
I know, right?
Filming this, how expensive it had to go through for all the bloopers, because that ain't digital.
It must have been nuts. Yeah.
It had to be wildly expensive. But again, this is the first female-led movie to ever break $100 million. And one of the two biggest movies of that year. So this movie was a crazy wild success.
Yes.
And here we are, 44 years later, still talking about it.
And it still holds up. It's still relevant.
Very much still holds up. I mean, oh my God, dude! Like the thing, like the changes that they put into effect for the workplace, people are still fighting for those things to this day.
I know, right? Yeah, it's crazy.
This was kind of one of those moments for me. You just leave a fucking corpse out in the hallway? What?
It was the 70s, man.
I don't give a shit. That was like what? Okay, because it happened twice. It happened twice. Because first they leave the corpse in the hallway, and then Tomlin swipes the corpse, and then she goes by, and then she tries to escape, so she abandons the corpse in the hallway, goes into a laundry room, and comes out with a doctor's coat, and other hospital staff are just walking past this dead body in the hallway,
dude, there was 15 minutes done on just doing with this corpse, wandering around the hospital with it. She actually gets it outside and puts it in the trunk of her car, drives around New York City with it, gets pulled over and talks a cop out of checking the trunk before they finally get it back. There's a 15-minute segment of just insane shit involving it's not even the right corpse. It's the wrong corpse that they stole. They stole the wrong corpse, drove it around town.
Yeah, they just stole some mobster's body.
Right, and put it back. And
then the hospital staff is like, it happened again.
Right, yeah. And he's like, there's another corpse in the bathroom. And then they, other than a slight reference to it a couple scenes later of wow, what a crazy weekend, never brought up again. That they literally
that comedy bit was over.
That's 80s comedy for you, man. That was not an uncommon thing to have happen in 80s comedies, to just have these absolutely batshit insane events that then don't matter at all 2 scenes later.
I will agree with that. Mm-hmm. There were 2 hardcore improv lines from Lily Tomlin in that sequence, though. One, the nurse looking at her and realizing, oh, you're a doctor. I'm sorry. She's like, that's right. I'm a doctor. Why am I talking to you? Piss off. I'm like, oh my God. All right. Way to put on an instant power trip.
Right, yes.
Kind of broke the character a little bit, but the line was too funny that I'm glad that it stayed in.
Exactly. And I think it also goes to show just how much of an in a panic she is that's where her brain is going. She's like, right, I'm a doctor. Fuck you. Like, get out of my way. I got a corpse to steal.
This was my one big joke for this part of the scene. When she steals the corpse and throws the wheelchair away. Not the type to return a shopping cart.
Clearly, yes.
Dumb joke. So happy I made it.
my favorite line from Tomlin is right before she steals the corpse and she's realizing what's happening, and she's saying, she's like, oh my God, I'm going to go to jail. What's going to happen to my kids? And then after that, she goes, oh, and I'm going to lose my job. I killed the boss.
Or I killed the boss. Of course they're going to fire me.
Right, like that.
But, dude,
that's the kind of thing they don't let go.
Dolly Parton's comedy chops in this scene, dynamite. Yeah. Absolutely dynamite. like the getaway, the crash, and the realization, where she's like, Judy, could you come here for a second? And then like comes back and then, Violet, could you come here for a second?
Oh, it was
that was
so
amazing.
Good. Yeah.
That was
yeah.
awesome. I loved how she did that. I've seen 100 examples of people doing something just like that. This might be the oldest that I've like. This might be like, I'm sure this probably wasn't the first time anybody did that on film, but this might be the first time that I'm seeing it, or the oldest version that I'm seeing it. I don't know why I keep saying this. I clearly said it correctly.
Right? Yeah, and even when they do come around, it's like, could you come here a second? And oh, who's that? I don't know. Where's Hart's body? I don't know. Like they just, and then they repeat it again. Like
super casual. Like it was a great moment.
Classic comedy, yes.
Then getting pulled over by the helpful cop, and just how much like, I have a sick patient. You're sick? Yes. No. Yes. Both. Who's sick? She is. This is a 15-minute wildly weird, like you could take this scene and remove it from the movie, but oh my god, thank god they didn't do that.
Right, yes. Yeah.
Like it could have been completely cut, and it would have dropped the movie down to almost an hour and a half, which would have been the right runtime for that era. But they didn't. Thank God they didn't. It was too funny. Going into the bathroom and talking about the attempted murder and everything like that, and then the company spy Roz being in the bathroom, like in the toilet with her feet up, taking notes on the toilet paper.
Plot twist, yes. Big plot twist.
Brilliant. Mm-hmm. You know I don't use that word lightly when it comes to these things, but I mean, this movie was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, it had too many good moments that just never faltered. This was another moment where we really, like, whatever happens to Coleman, we don't care. Because he finds out about it, and he's going to use it to try to leverage Dolly into bed.
Right, yeah.
We don't care what happens to him.
Yep. That's the moment where like, okay, yeah, chuck him out the window. Go ahead.
And he's laughing while she takes the phone cord and she full on hog ties him, and he's laughing until he realizes, oh, this ain't funny anymore. He's like,
right.
I'm stuck. I loved that. I loved how good Dolly did it. I loved how fast she was at it. I loved how efficient she was with it. Like, Dolly Parton, I love you. I always have, but I kind of, like, I'm a little sad. No, I'm not. Little sad that I didn't know about this movie until recently. Glad I got to watch it at the point in life that I did.
There you go. Yeah. Yep.
I feel like I got the maximum enjoyment out of this at this point, watching it at this point in my life.
You know, I think I did too. I mean, like I said, I first saw it. I was a little kid. I didn't get half of what I was seeing.
Yeah, a little kid ain't gonna get this. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, now being reminded of it and making a point to go back and see it again. Yeah, I definitely appreciate, like, not just remember more. I appreciate way more of this. 100%.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Then Fonda's got to guard the hostage, and that was a great, like, how uncomfortable she was with that, how she didn't know how to, like, really respond and react to that. Every part of it was funny. Every single part of it.
Yep.
Then we get the purse gun throwback where she grabs the gun out of the purse, and she is not a good shot, thank God.
I like that for me, like, and again, this is just one of those 80s comedies things where it's like, she fired off 3 rounds in the office and nobody noticed.
They're in the break room. But I did like that. The boss's house for brainstorming, and then Tomlin finds that empty warehouse, implicating him in embezzlement, which, way to luck into that. And then they need about 4 to 6 weeks to get things right, to get that time, everything like that, to get the report on the warehouse, to do all this.
Which, you know, kids today will not understand. Before the age of computers, getting the receipt for something was a fucking nightmare. It took weeks. It took you know, months sometimes. And that's if everything worked perfectly, and usually they didn't, because someone in the office would get sick. Yeah,
absolutely. Somebody gets sick. Somebody would miss it, misfile it. It would wind up something, and so you'd take something that was secure. You're trying to get it mailed to you, and maybe they were trying to make a copy of it or something like that, but it wound up going into the trash, so now it doesn't even exist anymore.
Yep.
Kind of a funny thing that goes hand in hand with that. Did you know there is no patent for the fire hydrant?
No, I didn't, but that kind of makes sense.
It got lost in a fire.
Well,
So
you
we
know
don't
what?
know. We don't know who invented it. We don't know who invented the fire hydrant because the patent was lost because that aspect of the patent office burnt down. I thought that was really funny. I enjoyed that a bit.
So there should be like a statue like right next to the tomb of the unknown soldier. We need like the monument of the unknown inventor of the fire hydrant.
The fact that that isn't already a statue in Portland is weird. Tying up Coleman like a bad boy while they run the show. That
Again,
you
Dabney
did tell
Coleman
me about this.
Fought somebody to the death for that role.
Getting tied up, like all this stuff. Having Dolly Parton smash his head right into her boobs.
Yeah, he gets full on objectified and molested by Dolly Parton. That enough is to bring any man, to the fray right there. He gets
That would suffice a
hogtied.
paycheck.
Yeah, he gets hogtied by Dolly Parton twice, and then he gets to play on an electric swing. I mean, come on, this is a dream role here.
Pretty fun movie.
While also doing comedic banter with Lily Tomlin as icing on the cake.
Right. There's not any bad moments of this movie. Like that is kind of the amazing thing. Okay. So we think that Roz is going to be a really big problem because that's how she's been set up in the movie so far and all that. But I love how easily they get rid of her. But I got a little bit of a sad fact.
Okay.
That plane that they shot for that scene exploded over the Atlantic Ocean a few months later.
Jesus.
That's fun
dark.
Yeah. But that's happened with quite a few of the movies that we've covered. Like that, like our very, very first, like our first episode, our test episode, the house that The Last Supper was filmed in, that burned down like 2 months after they finished filming.
Right, that's right, yeah.
And
see that
I don't know how many more there are like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of movies made and a lot of shit happens, so it's probably a pretty long list.
That is fair.
But yeah,
that swing trap, you have mentioned it. It is crazy funny.
It really, yeah. And the foreshadowing for it too, because the main thing's mechanism is what? It's an electric garage door opener, and we even had a scene of Lily Tomlin installing one of those in her house earlier in the movie. Like, so that was like a whole thing to explain what that is without having to explain what it is. Kind of brilliantly done.
It really was. That was, I mean, it showed the experience, everything like that. It gave an explanation and like without having to do exposition.
Yep.
I'm really struggling talking today. I wonder what's going on. They take over and make all the changes while he's watching soap operas. Funny. Dick shows up and has been casing the joint. What the hell, man? I followed you. I've been watching you for a couple of days. Yeah. Stab him. Yeah. Stab him right now. Like, that's not okay.
This was a pretty common theme I seem to recall from a lot of 70s and 80s movies. As divorce was becoming more and more common, we weren't like there was a lot of. We weren't seeing a lot of in reality, most divorces were women leaving abusive husbands. That was the reality of it. But in the movies, it was men leaving their wives for younger women. Mm-hmm. And in half of those, they all wanted their first wife back. Like that was a very common theme of husband leaves his wife for a younger woman.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Husband leaves wife for a younger woman. That relationship crashes and burns for all the obvious reasons, and then the husband comes crawling back to the first wife. Usually
both of our movies are kind of like that.
Yeah, usually in extremely weird and inappropriate ways. Like this.
I want to say Candyman was a little bit weird and inappropriate with how they got together at the end.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So Coleman almost is. Oh, I mean, just real quick. That whole sequence with Dick showing up and all that. Yes, it was funny, but.
Well, I think it's a tough one because I think they wanted to have a scene that kind of upped the stakes a bit. You know, they have him find the file and he almost escapes. Mm-hmm. So there needed to be some sort of event that, you know, upped the stakes to have him almost get away, to have him almost be discovered. I think they were probably at a little loss because the only other character that was a threat was the company spy, and they'd already shipped her off into the country. So what's...
Yeah, but that's kind of a weird, like, it's a weird thing because in a more present day film, they would be worried about him being a witness, and that was not even part of this at all. Like that was something that I like. But so few problems in this movie. I think that might be my only one.
But also at the same time, it was
I understand the note.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But also at the same time, it was a pretty funny gag to have the ex-husband walk in, see Dabney Coleman hanging from the ceiling and going, "Oh, is this what you're into now?" Like his immediate thought is, "Are you fucking this guy and doing S&M shit with him?"
Now you're into bondage and S&M, and that was my note. I didn't know. No
idea what he's talking about. Yeah,
100%. Because my note back was, she's like, "Yes, and now I like M&Ms."
Brilliant. Well, and also even better, like that was the first laugh out loud for me moment of that was when he bursts in, sees him hanging there, you know, tied up, gag in his mouth, and she slams the door closed, and he goes, "Who was that?" And she just goes, "A friend." Like in the most, he's all like the guy who divorced her and left her for a younger woman is like, "So you're with him now?" It's like, right, yeah, none of your business, dog. Right, yeah, exactly.
You shut up, you leave, dick.
So it was also a pretty good moment for her because in earlier scene we did kind of see when he showed up to serve the divorce papers, she still
kind of thirsty for him. Yeah,
right. She was kind of still hoping that there was still repair there, and this was her moment to get over him and basically be like, "Look, you divorced me. You can go fuck yourself."
Yep. Yeah, strength. Which kind of she was forced into doing that, and because. You want to do that. You wanted her to do that. You wanted her to have that strength. But the situation forced her to have that strength. But I bet she felt good about it afterwards.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
The character, obviously. We're talking the world of the character.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of, as weird and disjointed as this scene was, it was pretty important that it was there. Because it was growth for her. It rose the stakes of the film. And... I mean, let's just face it. It was comedy gold. That whole, you know, I like M&Ms now. Like that was literally, like, I can't imagine the movie without a line like that. You know?
No, like that's because that's what the movie is. Like it's a ton of amazing one-liners from four incredibly talented performers.
Yep.
Like, just too good. So Misty comes home, and then Coleman sends her away, and then I was shocked.
Yeah.
Wasn't ready for it, everything like that. But he completely pulled a fast one. He got everything out, and it looks like he came up. Then the boss, the big boss, the head honcho, he comes in.
The colonel from the tobacco industries.
Pretty much, man. Look like freaking Colonel Sanders.
Yeah.
But he comes in, and he's like, productivity is up 20% in only 4-6 weeks and all that. Like, we're going to promote you. We're going to send you to Brazil. And after 2 or 3 years, and just... 2 or 3 years in Brazil, dude. Dabney Coleman. Oh my God, man. I know that he has a body of work. I don't think it's enough.
You know, I'd agree with you. Yes.
Yeah. I had that. So the ending of this movie really confused me. Enjoyed the whole movie.
Right.
Really didn't have any parts that faltered at all. But I was really bothered by the end and it seemed like it was a sign of the times.
Yeah.
Because I was really wanting Tomlin to step up, but she never does. Yet they still wind up getting a win. And I just didn't understand how that worked. They did all the work, they got none of the credit, and then they celebrated.
Right. Well, they were celebrating that he was finally gone because that was their main goal was to get rid of him, and they got rid of him even though it was kind of like, no, he didn't go to jail, no, he didn't get busted for embezzlement or anything like that. Or they didn't, you know, he got he basically got his failure upwards that most guys like him were getting back in those days. It just happened to be an upwards to where he didn't want to go. He didn't want to end up in Brazil. But so it was like So
they were just celebrating his misery.
Yeah, they were celebrating his misery and the fact that they didn't.
With that.
Yeah, and that they didn't have to deal with him anymore because now he's gone. And according to like the sort of epilogue type ups that we got at the end, Tomlin got her promotion that she was angry about not getting before eventually anyway. With him gone, she got her promotion. Things were completely unchanged for Dolly Parton's character and for Jane Fonda's character, but Lily got hers. And,
Jane Fonda, she married like a tech mogul or something like that, right? Dora Lee went on to be a country, the Xerox guy, and then Dora Lee became a country western star.
Right. Yes, that's true. But yeah, no, it did have a little bit. It did have a little bit of like an almost Gilligan's Island kind of ending where everything was returned back to normal at the end. Yeah, but which is bizarre when you consider how much crazy shit led up to all this. To think that it kind of all gets swept under the rug and nobody ever notices is yes, it's very, very 70s, 80s comedy for it to go that way. But yeah. So they're celebrating because he's finally gone, and then we find out he was kidnapped by rebels in Brazil and never heard from again.
Yep,
it's a fitting ending for that guy.
I'll give it that. That was fitting. I'll agree with that.
Yep.
All right, so that was 9 to 5. I'm definitely putting this on the must-see list.
100%. This is a modern-day classic.
It is.
It's still prescient today. Like you said, the changes...
And there's word number 2.
What? Are you playing bingo with my $10 words? Is that it?
Nope. You have 2 words that you are religious with. Tertiary and that one. I'm not religious with them. They just happen to make good placeholders when I can't think of another word. I've been noticing because going through the edit, because I have to go through the edit, so I just keep hearing these words, and because I remember I was like, there was one point because I never heard you say tertiary, and then I was like, when the fuck did this guy get word of the day toilet paper? And that, but it's just the 2, and I'm getting a pretty big crack out of that.
It's because if I forget another word, they make good placeholders because they don't sound like a word that you use because you forgot to use another word. They sound like an educated individual making a good point.
Okay, all right, fair. So like I said, I got this one up on the must list. Mm-hmm. I got this one up on the must see list. I know it's on yours as well.
Absolutely.
For me, it's the historical connotation of what life was like for women in that era, like all that. Like this is a true depiction and a highlight of what that was like, and it didn't really change. So when people refer to what it used to be like, how women were treated, all this, it's true. This is what it was like. Nobody batted an eye.
Yep.
Like that was like so. I do think that it is prescient.
And it was the same point that you made earlier that when he was locked up in the house and they were secretly running the company, and so they made changes to the office that caused productivity to go up 20% in only 4 weeks. It was great for the company. These are things that still do not exist today, and workers are still trying to fight for. They're the first whenever workers try to unionize. These are the top list items that they want if they were to unionize. And and it never happens. They're not even offered them these things as a fig leaf to say, okay, we'll give you these things if you don't unionize. They're basically told flat out, go fuck yourselves.
Yep.
Even though all...
Well, I mean, union busting has been going forever. Yeah. And that's basically, union busting is to prevent people from getting everything that they were describing in this.
Even though they're, and it's not even like they were that far ahead of the times back then. There were already existing scientific studies with decades of evidence to back it up to say that, yes, these things bring up productivity. It's good for your company to spend money on your employees and give them a lifestyle in their office workspace. But it never gets put that way because the fact of the matter is none of these people are actually interested in running good companies. They just want to run small kingdoms. That's what they want to do.
Well, there is that as well. All right, so final thoughts, 9 to 5. Go for it, Doc.
Historically significant movie that everybody must see. Everybody must and I don't know how to describe otherwise. Absolutely must be seen.
Too much fun.
Yeah. It's right up there with, whenever you hear someone, some film nerd talk about like all the greatest movies, you've got your Casablanca, you've got your Citizen Kane. I'd put 9 to 5 on that list in like the top 5 must-see movies that have to that you can't talk movies until you've seen it.
You can't really call yourself a connoisseur of movies until you actually, I mean, yeah. I've considered myself a movie buff my whole life, but I'm really enjoying the ones that I'm keying in on now.
Yep.
All right, so let's. What do you say we switch it over and then part 2 of the show, Candyman. One of my old favorites, and it still holds up for me. Written and directed by Bernard Rose, based on the novel The Forbidden by Clive Barker, starring Virginia Madsen and Tony Todd, with Xander Berkley and Cassie Lemmons. There are a few others, but I will mention them as we go along.
Yeah.
Cassie Lemmons, less of an actor these days, kicked up as a director. She was the writer and director of the movie Harriet. The one that came out in 2019.
Harriet.
Yeah, the one about Harriet Tubman.
Oh, right. Okay.
She wrote and directed that.
Nice. Okay. Well done.
So, really loving being able to call some attention to her in one of her earlier acting credits.
Yeah.
So, I know that we did sample this when we were talking about 9 to 5. But Doc, what did you think about Candyman going into it?
Well, I mean, like I said, I'm not a horror guy. I cannot say that I had a pleasant experience watching this, but it was not as bad as I thought it would be. Like I mentioned before, I got a little more relaxed when I saw that it was based off of a Clive Barker story. I've read Clive Barker. I know the guy's got good imagination. If you don't, I can't imagine there are any horror fans out there who don't know who Clive Barker is, but just in case, I would say Clive Barker is the Neil Gaiman of horror. He is extremely imaginative. He's responsible
for a lot of people's favorites.
Yeah, he's very imaginative,
Candyman,
very creative.
And Hellraiser.
Yeah, he takes very, very interesting directions. He doesn't just throw in a monster and make it kill everybody. He's got lore behind everything.
There's history. Yes, I mean, Hellraiser, very, very, very much horror. This one is horror, but it's a lot more of the sense of unease that carries you through the whole film. Like, you have a couple jump scares, but not many. Most of it is just, it really is. It really is just a sense of unease, and very good job.
Well, what was interesting about this was that I felt like...
But that's credit to Bernard Rose, though. Clive Barker wrote the source material, but
but what I was thinking in terms of how Candyman as a villain in this movie isn't really. I mean, there's a few points that kind of exceptions to the rule, really, but he's not as much a villain as he is a force of nature. He's he's like a hurricane that only hits one person at a time. Like that. This is. And it was kind of like the first time that I've ever realized just how much correlation there is between disaster movies and horror movies. But that it was kind of an awakening for me to see it that way. Is that this isn't just a villain. This is a force of nature that it cannot be negotiated with. And
I never really put those two things together. But now that you say it, there is a lot of parallels that go with that. Mostly the impending dread.
Yes. Yep. Like the impending dread, and it's less about the. Sometimes it's about defeat. Sometimes people are trying to figure out how to defeat Freddy Krueger. but 90% of the time it's just about how to escape is the main thing.
How to escape, how to survive. Yeah. Yes, that is very, very good point. So, jumping in on this, opening on a long helicopter shot over the city highway. Thing about it, it went on forever. I never got bored.
It was weird, yeah. It was a very long, slow opening sequence that just kind of, and I don't know if it was, maybe the music had something to do with it, or, but
whatever it was. I weirdly, on a lot, like long tracking shots like that, sometimes they tend to lose my interest. This one didn't, and I have no idea why, but the music was good. I'm gonna confess to something right here now. Because I knew that I was watching a horror movie and that there was going to be, full immersion for me, and this one was going to be a little bit, a lot. I did not fully immerse. I watched this on a small laptop screen in a well-lit room. And no VR theater for this one.
No, not this one, no. And I had SimCity on my phone the whole time. So I kind of, I kind of accredit it to that I just didn't notice how long the opening sequence went because I was also, checking my, making sure that my population was happy at the same time, Okay, so.
Fair enough. I loved ending on the, this long tracking shot. It ended on the horde of bees and Tony Todd's incredible voice. Mm-hmm. Then we have the swarm of bees engulfing the city, which just like last week on ID4, pure metaphor over who kind of controls the city, the fear, everything like that. It's Candyman.
Yeah.
And it nailed it. So, okay, so you were a little checked into your phone, a little checked out of the movie because of the horror aspect. So did you even notice the Ted Raimi, bit role?
No, who was Ted Raimi in this?
He's the opening character. He's the cool guy, Billy, who shows up.
The boyfriend in the urban legend bit at the beginning.
Yeah.
That's Ted Raimi.
That's Ted frickin' Raimi, dude.
Nice. Okay, cool. All right.
I thought that was awesome. I was like, okay, wild, because too early for it to be a cameo, so it is a bit role, but it's Ted frickin' Raimi.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, so you didn't even catch that. You must have been into your phone.
No, I don't even, I mean, let's just move on.
All right. Then we get, though they're talking about the urban legend of Candyman and explaining the mechanic behind summoning Candyman, which, for those who aren't in the know, it's Bloody Mary.
Right, yeah. It's very much. I mean, I kind of thought it was weird that they even felt the need to, expand it to saying his name 5 times instead of 3 times, like in Bloody Mary. That I thought was a little, is there, there's not a copyright on Bloody Mary or some shit. Why did they need to do that?
I think it's the anticipation. If you go into the bathroom and you say, you look in the mirror, you say Bloody Mary, you say Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary.
Right.
Candyman, you say it 4 times. It builds every time you say it, it builds the anticipation a little bit more. So I think that's why they went with it, and I think it was a really smart decision. Because watching this movie, I can remember the exact house that I lived in when I went into the bathroom and said this. Which... Well, was I a suicidal child? What the fuck was wrong with me?
That's what urban legends do, man. That's what urban legends do. Look, they even talked about the alligators in the sewer urban legend. I was one of those fucking
right
kids
into Xander Berkley's class. Yeah,
right. I was one of those kids who literally went into sewer systems looking for alligators. That's the shit people do. That's how this stuff inspires.
Yeah,
which I kind of appreciated because I kept going because the last horror movie we did was Skeleton Key, and there's a lot of correlations between these because they're both kind of African American abuse mythos kind of things, kind of becoming modern day curses. There's a correlation there, and I kept thinking back to that. And I remember one of the things that really bothered me, and I get it that this is a horror movie thing, which is was the fact that Kate Hudson's character in Skeleton Key did nothing wrong. She did nothing wrong. She was a good person. She was making the right decision in every case, but she still got fucked. And that just bothered me so much. In this movie, not so much. Like, she doesn't do anything, like, Virginia Madsen's character doesn't do anything wrong per se, but she is technically, yeah, she's poking the bear at the beginning of this movie. Mm-hmm. So it's a little more, that is a little bit more of a comfort of, like, she was looking for trouble when she found it. But that only goes so far because literally every other victim in this movie was a 100% innocent bystander. So, I mean, that was only kind of part of it.
That is true. Virginia Madsen's character basically sent the entire everybody into a hard descent.
Yeah.
Except Xander. Xander Berkley, no, his character, But, so we're talking about, like, opening up on the urban legends and all that and going in and collecting the story and all that. And we meet this thirsty college boy. Because Virginia walks in and he's like, oh, hey. And then he goes back to looking at Cassie. Oh, hey. Like, This guy is all about it. He is as horny as he could be. And then we cut right over.
It took me a second, too, because I thought this was taking place in a high school at first because of that kid. Because he was
look young, yeah.
He was young and he was so fucking horny for Virginia Madsen. I was like, and then she immediately lights up a cigarette. I'm like, you can't smoke in a high school. What's going on here? Even 1992, you can't smoke in a high school. What the fuck is going on here? No, it's a college. Which, by the way, you could smoke in a college classroom in 1992.
Crazy weird. Like, I still like that seems way too recent for that for me. Yeah. The alligators in the sewers, and yeah, he is definitely flirting with his students.
Oh,
and, we see that right about there. And then she has that little bit of a fit, like, why did you do this now? We're covering this and all that. It's like, it's the curriculum of the class. Like, I can't wait for you. So I was like, okay, man, I see her point. I see his point. I'm more on his side, but he's a dick. So I don't want to be on his side.
Yeah, but I thought it was weird too. Like, why does it matter? Like, she's work? I mean, it's like I've had a couple of friends who have done like master's theses and doctoral dissertations. None of them have ever given a shit whether or not what they were working on was being taught in another class before. That's like never played into it.
I didn't really understand that either, but whatever. The janitor knows about Candyman, which really kind of lifts up that this is a black urban legend and not a well-known, because all the white people are finding out about this. All the black characters in this movie, they already knew about this.
Oh yeah, yep.
Like, there's only one white character who knew about Candyman, and
that was the guy who had studied Candyman like years before, and was basically right out of the gate going like, "You're fucking poking the bear here, little girl." Like,
yeah, and like, 'cause he remembers this story very, very well.
Yep. Although he was pretty condescending about it, though, so I get why she wasn't listening to him.
Yeah, he was. But as I understand, like, that's his character, like in Bridgerton and everything else. Like, he's just a
smarmy British motherfucker. Yes,
he is. That is. The janitor gives her the hint about heading to the projects and that it was reported to the paper. So we get to see Virginia and Cassie discussing Candyman and explaining how people went from apartment to apartment in the projects. Which I thought this was a nice little inclusion where she was like, it turns out my building was built as a project. And then they realized where the location was and they changed it. So in this safe, secluded space, you get to see how the projects are put together and what is going to like lead in. And I thought that was very clever because I would never have known that.
Yeah, well, I think that's what's interesting about this movie is how like, yeah, it's the story of Candyman, but and again we I correlate that back to Skeleton Key being kind of the same thing. This is a horror movie that is not afraid to kind of use its fantasy horror story as an illustration to the real life horrors that are going on. And to my knowledge, the Chicago projects have not gotten any better since this movie came out.
No, so, nothing, just worse.
Yeah.
No, that's like, what is it? I can't remember. What is that? 8? No, I'm not even going to go into that because I don't know enough about that to start covering that.
Yeah.
Showing Cassie the mirror and placing the target on herself. That was the thing. Cassie says Candyman 4 times. She says it 5 times, but what we find out as... no, we're almost there. I'm going to get there.
Okay.
Xander... Oh, okay. Our very first jump scare of the movie is Xander's horny ass popping into the bed at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So, a little bit of, like, I actually kind of enjoyed that red herring because it's like... And it gave me a little sense of security, and then it set me up to be creeped out later.
That's another, common horror thing, because you're in for the jump scares, and so they give you some fake jump scares to start with. That's always the case.
But I love, like, it is a smart mechanic because you get scared, you feel safe, and then it pulls you right back into it. Like, I love the rides of horror movies.
Yeah.
Like, they're like a good comparison. I know this is a weird comparison, but a good comparison is the movie Click. Very funny. Okay. Very emotionally hitting. So that roller coaster,
weirdly,
you go
for as crazy as a movie that was, it was weirdly emotionally serious and deep. Yeah, I was shocked
when the
by
emotions
that movie.
hit, they really hit. But the reason that they hit so hard is because the levity in you're emotionally available for what you've already been through, which is so much laughter. So when the emotions hit like that, they really tank you. And horror movies do the exact same thing because it's that roller coaster of safety, horror, security, danger. Like, it's great. That's the magic behind horror movies. And healthy anxiety. That is one of the main purposes of horror movies, is healthy fear. Like, fear is a healthy, safe, good thing to actually experience. Oh, sure. But for a lot of people who have intense anxiety and all this stuff, watching a horror movie and having literally, I'm supposed to be afraid or nervous of this, it makes sense. That's a big comfort to a lot of people who deal with stuff like that. I've learned more about that as I've gotten older, and I can see it.
Well, and it's interesting, and I think that's kind of one of the things that I think is most fascinating. As much as and I know I have a lot for someone who does not like horror movies. I have a lot to say about them. I know. What do I know? But one of the things that I do find interesting is how dependable they are in the industry. Like, if you are a first-time filmmaker, and it's not even just movies. Like, I've noticed it's the same thing with indie video games. You are much more likely to reach a new audience if your genre is horror than anything else, because the horror fans are some of the A, most ravenous, B, most dedicated, and C, most easy to please, it seems like.
I was about to say, very forgiving.
Yeah.
Very forgiving. Terrible effects, bad acting, doesn't matter.
Yeah, the new Chucky TV series that's on Shudder right now. Have you heard about this?
No.
Yeah, apparently they have a TV show on Shudder based off of the Child's Play franchise called Chucky, and
awesome.
And in it, Chucky has a non-binary child. I haven't heard anyone complain about Child's Play going woke. Not a single peep.
What do you... I don't even understand how that would work. Like, aren't all dolls non-binary? I'm gonna have to watch this. That raises a lot of questions, and I don't want to be. And I didn't know it existed, so I don't want to be spoiled. So that's gonna be a fun one.
Well, apparently you have to make sure you see all the movies, because Bride of Chucky and Son of Chucky all come into play in this. It's all the characters at once in a series, so you have to catch up on the movies.
No, I've already seen them all.
Oh, okay.
They don't release. They didn't release Child's Play movies. Yeah, they didn't release Chucky movies all that often, so it was really, really easy to stay current.
No, that's true. That's very true. Yeah, no, I stopped.
It's not like Jason. It's not like Freddy Krueger. There's only a handful of Chucky movies, and that's fine.
Yep.
Heading to the project, and Cassie is way rightly nervous. I was nervous for her. Being black in a 90s movie is dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, dude, like, because this is what we're talking about with that anxiety and the feeling of unease. Getting surrounded on the way up, going to the elevator, having everybody surround them, going to the stairs, having everybody surround them, like all that. That was not horror at all. That was just a general sense of real world, real life unease.
Yeah.
And you have the black character who very much knows this is wildly dangerous. We shouldn't be here. And then you have the white character who's like, no, it's okay. It's like, dude, you should be listening to the black lady in this one, dude. You are not in the white part of town. Like, there are no white people around you. You do not call the shots. You don't know what the hell is going on.
No, yeah.
Like, no, so I was really nervous about that.
But that is a pretty, like, you know, a pretty good display of what white privilege looks like, of being completely oblivious to how in danger you are in moments like that.
That is true. I mean, for the love of God, a lot of guys I know won't go into public bathrooms.
Yeah.
For sometimes legitimate fears, but when you're talking about small town places, like, they do drugs in there, it's like, no, that's the shut up. Going through the getting surrounded on the way up, nervous. Going into the murder apartment, nervous. Having the dog come out, like when they go take a picture of the door and we get to meet Anne Marie, nervous.
Yeah, Jesus, like the fucking balls on this lady too, because it's like I wouldn't have...
She took a picture of somebody's door.
She took a picture of somebody's door with a fucking flash. You don't do that in any neighborhood. I don't care. I don't care if it's the projects. I don't care if it's the suburbs. You don't stand there and take, with a fucking flash photography, take pictures of someone's front door. You were asking to get shot.
Yeah, no, that was the thing. I was nervous the whole time. Like, all the stupidity that was coming out of this character was just making me nervous. Yeah. Then, like, the previous scene that we were talking about, where they tell us how everything works with the projects and how they're connected and all this stuff, going through the mirror into the murdered person's apartment, her walking through his mouth, A+ imagery.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good. Yep.
I really did enjoy that. And then we meet. So we didn't we saw Vanessa Williams as Anne Marie. Here is. Because, I don't know, maybe season 2 will cover Candyman. The 2021 Candyman.
Oh, okay.
Did you know about this?
Yeah, I heard about it, yeah.
Okay. And Anne Marie, Vanessa Williams, reprises her role in the 2021 Candyman as the same character.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So the new Candyman isn't a remake. It is now.
It's a continuation.
It's a continuation. It's 30 years later. Okay.
Yes, there are four movies in the Candyman series, and the way you watch it is you watch Candyman, Candyman 2, then you watch the 2021 Candyman, and then you go watch Candyman 3.
Interesting.
I'm only gonna watch the 2 Candyman because the original Candyman, in my eyes, perfect. There is no part of this story, there's no part of this movie that falters. It sings the whole way through. Just like The Paper is a perfect movie of its genre, I think Candyman is a perfect movie of its genre.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I wouldn't disagree. I mean, definitely from a technical standpoint, it hit, and for something
But I did add this note, specifically for Vanessa Williams. She plays Francine West in The Flash, which I know you saw.
Oh, yeah.
That's her.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry, you were saying.
What was it? Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I was just commenting on how, like, yeah, when people talk classic, long-standing horror, like, Candyman is definitely on a lot of people's favorites, you know, young and old, for sure. This has some staying power, even above a lot of the big-name franchises like Child's Play or Nightmare on Elm Street or any of those. Like, definitely.
Well, it's because of the real-world history that they tie into it. That's really what makes it unsettling. And, So
well, that's another thing about horror I've noticed. Again, to interrupt, you know, sorry about that. But that's the other interesting thing about the horror genre is that, you know, like take for example, you know, after she goes the first time and and then she gets attacked by the gangster who's calling himself Candyman, and they literally
the bathroom scene, yeah,
right, and they literally lock down and raid the entire projects to find the guy. And she makes the comment. She's like, she's like, 3 people got killed there and they did nothing, but one white woman gets punched in the bathroom and they lock the place down. Like, she says the fucking line. And this is in 1992 is when this movie came out. I I would put it to you that if that line was in anything other than a horror movie, the studio would have told him to cut it out because it would have quote unquote alienated white audiences. They let horror get away with anything because they saw it as, even if it was a big name, big budget one like Candyman was. Like Candyman, I seem to recall, was the one horror movie that year that actually had trailers playing on TV.
I'd have to go back and look over the year.
Okay, but yeah, they saw horror as a niche market. No one really, the studios never really paid attention to it. That was just fodder for the masses kind of thing. They didn't pay as close attention. If this had been a comedy or a romance, or even if they just took out the supernatural part of it and kept all of the crime and intrigue,
I doubt they would have tossed that line in there.
They would have said no, we don't want to alienate our audience with a line like this. And so that's kind of the other thing is if you want to get really hardcore social commentary and realistic, a sense like that. Horror's kind of the one place where you have no rules. You won't have an executive telling you.
No, that's true. You get to play with the horrors of racism and everything like that. Because if you go into another project, they're we don't want to make it too heavy. But if you're going to horror, you have to make it heavy. So the real world applications of racism and what that has done throughout history.
Exactly.
That plays a bigger part because it that sells real world unease with supernatural horror.
Yep.
No, that's completely.
I think that's another reason why horror has the dedicated audience it has is because it for a fear genre it has no fear, so
that is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So we find out that Anne Marie was the one who called and no one came to help, and I gotta say, Vanessa Williams wildly nailed this scene.
Oh yeah, no yeah.
The heartbreak, the fear, everything, all of it. She was right in there. And this is where we were talking about where we get that the dinner party with Michael Culkin and the director cameo from Bernard Rose. One of two cameos that he makes in this movie. It's this one, and then he is the only other person at the funeral.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah. So this is where we find out Candyman's story. So very intelligent man.
Mm-hmm.
So he was raised, he got a top tier education, he went out, but his problem was while he was painting this white woman, they fell in love.
Yep.
So when they fell in love, and that's 100% why this story, why Virginia Madsen, why she doesn't just die when she calls him. She summons him, he sees her. That looks like the woman that he fell in love with during the while he was painting. Right,
which we don't find out, of course, until later. We see a mural that looks like her. They don't really.
No, they don't tell you.
They don't really clue in as to whether she's a descendant or it's just a coincidence that she looks like her. But it basically comes down to I
just figured coincidence.
Candyman's breaking his own rules with her specifically because she looks like that,
Yep.
And
so his whole point, once she summons him and he discovers her, is he's trying to get her to team up with him for a life of immortality and everything like that. Getting people to believe their legend and not just his. That's the thing about this that makes it, kind of takes it over, into the next level. There's a lot of romance in this. It ain't good romance, but it is romantic as hell.
Clearly not a healthy relationship, but yes.
No. But that's not the point. Because it's not about a romance, it's about the romantic notions in Candyman's mind.
Right.
That's what makes his character, to me, it really brings it in. Virginia returns to the scene and then meets Little Jake, played by DeJuan Guy. Very cool name. He has had a career. He has gone on.
I was going to say, I didn't look him up, yeah.
He did, his IMDb photo is still of Little Jake from this movie, but he has had a career, so I thought that was kind of weird.
Maybe that's the part he's most proud of. He was,
I think he killed it.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, he's the one who killed Candyman.
Yeah, for a little kid that young to have that kind, like, and he's in all the gamut too. Like, he's playing little tough man, like, I'm not afraid of anything. And then
Well, I mean,
later on,
he is one of the little rascals in the remake.
Oh, I did not realize. See, I didn't look him up, but that makes sense.
Okay,
yeah, that makes sense.
Like, he was good, and she goads him into helping her. Dude, way to put yourself off as the bad guy. You don't like lie and co-opt children to do stuff for you in a neighborhood that you don't live in, or even in a neighborhood you live in. You don't do that. Man,
not
no,
cool.
we're talking like that was very much not cool.
No, like I said, it's what I prefer of this over Skeleton Key, where it's Skeleton Key, she did everything right, still got fucked. In this one, Virginia Madsen kinda sorta had it coming. Maybe not to the degree that she got, but I mean, you know.
Nah, yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things. Like, if you don't believe in it and everything like that, and you kind of pull the trigger on it, yeah, you should die. But the fact that everybody around her died, that's the thing. That's the thing that's fucked.
She is like, she got a lot of people killed for no reason. Yeah.
Little Jake gives a tour past this pyre that they're going to be setting up for the end. Like, they have all this garbage, basically a public dump. And it tells the story of Candyman killed this kid, like, back in the 70s or 60s or something.
Right.
And, like, and this tough guy, come in, you see, like, this dude in, like, a red leather jacket looking kind of Michael Jackson-ish. Like, I thought that, like, not anything other than just the color of the jacket. And this little kid tells a story about Candyman killing this guy by cutting his pecker off. That is the exact kind of horror story a child would tell.
Yeah, well, he killed the kid. The guy wasn't hurt. He came out with his hair turned white because Candyman cut the kid's pecker off.
That's what I'm talking about, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you said the other way around.
No. The tough guy went in there, like, he's giving the whole explanation and everything like that.
Right.
But no, like, Jake is talking about how, like, he cut the kid's pecker off, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
And that is very much a little kid's story, yeah.
Yeah. And then, like, yeah, Virginia goes into the public bathroom and she's, like, all, like, the poop graffiti and everything, and she's gagging from all of it. Understandable.
Sure.
Kicks open the toilet, and just the hive of bees that is hiding in this toilet.
Yeah.
Wildly unnerving. But you didn't really get an answer whether that was in her head or not.
No, yeah.
Because she closes it, nobody gets stung by a bee, nobody's anything like that, and then you get wannabe Candyman showing in literally right after this.
Yeah.
And, like, we had that moment for the police station and the lineup and all that, which, as I was watching this, I couldn't remember why that scene was necessary. But then we get the exposition dump that he ran the overlords and the projects, and then we get, as an audience, a real-world explanation over to what the Candyman is, the fear of the Candyman, why the legend's spreading, all of this. It's because it's local gangs that are co-opting the story.
Right, yep.
So a real-world explanation gets tossed on there, and we don't really know what's going to happen next. Then, as she's leaving, we finally see Candyman.
Yeah.
She goes in the parking garage, and you just hear, like, his voice, like, it's like in her head, just Helen.
Yeah.
And she's like,
a really good effect on my head, the way they did that.
Dude,
because
it was great.
Because it was both, because the way they did it, at least, you know, because it was like both an echo, like it's in a parking garage. It had the parking garage echo, but at the same time, it was perfectly centered on both sides of the stereo, and so it sounded like it was in your head as an audience member. So you were hearing it in your head, but it also sounded like a parking garage echo. So it was confusing for a second. You really are sitting there going like, "Whoa, where's this voice coming from?" Even as the audience, you're kind of experiencing that with her. I was impressed by that technical achievement there. That was good sound engineering right there.
I enjoyed it. I really did. And then we have dinner with Xander. And this scene, I couldn't remember why it was in there, because I thought it was just to show the passing of time and that her eye is healing. Because the next scene, her eye is healed and makeup didn't have to go through with a black eye and all this stuff for, like, every scene. So that scene was just to show the pass of time. But also, at the very end, when you have Xander regretting and all that, it's an additional memory that they filmed that they could show for him when he's thinking about her.
Right,
so,
okay.
I missed it in the moment. Caught me at the end. I loved it. His whole aspect of like seducing her into immortality with her, be my victim, and then he's like, I must shed innocent blood to make them believe. Like that's the thing. Like now that the legend has been a little bit dwindled and there's a real world explanation, he has to come back.
One of my most ardent believers, you just told him I don't exist, and he believed you. Can't let that go. Can't let that go. Yeah.
Yep. No, that was a big thing. And then dude, framing her for killing baby Anthony and then chopping the head off the dog. And
Jesus Christ.
Vanessa Williams.
Buy her some flowers first, man. Take it down a notch.
Maybe. But dude, you cannot. Vanessa Williams in this scene was incredible.
Yeah.
Like the fact that having her tear her hair out and having the sound effect of the hair being torn out because of the madness of her baby being taken from her.
Yeah.
Man, what decisions. I wildly impressed. Getting arrested, covered in blood, and treated like a murderer, and all the cops, everything. I mean, they are so cold. Understandably.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, and the scene too where she's like, where after they've arrested her and they're having her strip the bloody clothes off and stuff like that, and she's literally crying. Can I please? Can you please treat me like a person here, kind of thing.
And nope.
I appreciated the realism of that in other movies that I have seen where they've had scenes like that. They don't show the vulnerability of the character there. That's like the point where they get even more defensive and indignant. You don't see them crying and begging to be,
Well, no, because this character is not strong. This character is being tortured. Like, that's not the point. This character's point is not to be an example of like female strength or women empowerment, anything like that. This character is being fucking tortured.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's all it is. Like, and I'm really glad that
I thought it was interesting because I had never seen that in a movie before. That kind, just having your main character just be made that vulnerable that quickly,
And fully, the only time that she isn't is when she escapes the hospital to go fuck with Xander and his sex toy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the only time. Yep.
Oh, and it delighted me. Here was something that once I was watching it, I remembered remembering it, as weird as that sounds. Getting arrested and the slow reading of the Miranda rights. Literally every line. You have been arrested. Do you understand?
Right.
You have the right to remain silent. Do you understand? That,
yeah.
Dude, so much like that, like, have you ever seen it done like that before? Because
no, not that I can recall, no.
Wow. Like, way to add like 10 shades of power to that moment.
Yep.
Just by slowing it down. Man. Then, of course, we get Xander missing the call because he ain't at home. And then he shows up finally. And then exiting the jail to a barrage of reporters. You can't not feel for Virginia in this, man. Like, you feel horrible for her the entire time. And then... Man, you get the sense that he totally thinks you did it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
Absolutely. Even before what happens to Cassie.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's kind of plays into, I mean, maybe I'm being a little too, I think to a certain degree, and it's just kind of in hindsight, considering how quickly, when she leaves the asylum, when she escapes the asylum, we find out she's only been there for a month. And when she gets there, the new girlfriend's not only already moved in, they're already repainting the place a new color. Like, they had, to a certain degree, it's almost like...
man, come on. No. There was a murder that happened there. There was blood everywhere. You got to imagine they started, it wouldn't take me longer than a week to paint.
Okay, well, that's a very good point there. But my thinking is that it's not just the case of he thinks that she did it. There's a part of him that's kind of hoping she did it because he sees this as his out. Yeah. This is great. I don't have to divorce her. She'll just go to jail and I'm fine.
Yeah, that's
No one's gonna look at me sideways for sleeping with a student now.
right.
I'm in distress. Whee!
Oh my god. So this was something that I couldn't tell if this had anything to do with the bees or not, but when he attacks, believe in me, be my victim. Like every time he had like a exaggerated be something, I just kept thinking of bees.
I never clued in on that.
I probably wouldn't have if he didn't say it so many times. Like I just kept like bee. I'm like, yeah, no, you are really all about the bees, man. We know.
Yeah.
He says that the child will die in her place, and he has to be believed in. But I didn't really understand that. Is he not dead?
The baby?
No, Candyman.
Oh, see,
Is he not dead?
That's what I wasn't sure of before. Because it's like they say that he was killed way back when. That's how it all started.
Mm-hmm.
But he seems to be solid in some way now. He
shows up in photos.
He shows up in photos. He doesn't show up on video. We find that out.
Right.
When she does find him and she tries to, when she finds him and tries to stab him, the knife does go into him. It doesn't do anything to him, but it does go into him.
Oh, come on. When he yanks it out and that little tiny spurt that follows out with it.
Right.
That was hilarious.
That was clever. Yeah, I liked that. But yeah, so it's like, I'm not. I guess we never really get a clear picture as to what exactly Candyman is. And
I'll probably I'm gonna watch the rest of the series. I'm gonna watch all of them, but I'm pretty sure I'm only gonna want to cover the Candyman and the 2021 Candyman.
Okay. I mean, I think
next season.
But knowing what I know of Clive Barker, I'd say that what he is not as important as what he does.
True, but I like rules.
Okay, fair enough.
I like established rules and mechanics because I don't like it when the writer goes, I can't get out of this situation. Ha! Magic. Like, no, dude. You painted yourself into a corner. Get yourself out. Like when you finally get over a challenge and nobody helped you, the challenge isn't dropped down to make it easier. The level of the sense of accomplishment that you get after doing that, huge. So whenever I kind of wrap myself into something, I don't change anything else. I just try to figure out how the hell to get out of it. I don't try to cheat the story. But this is the thing. Cassie shows up at the wrong time. And just like I was worried about, you can't be black in a 90s horror movie. Yep. You always die first.
Yeah.
That is just how it went. So I hate that because I loved Cassie more than basically every character.
I'll tell you what surprised me. From the moment we're introduced to the student girlfriend, and she even says it. She calls it out, but you can see it in their first interaction when she goes into his classroom and he introduces her. And he goes, "Oh, this is my these are my top students," and what's her name?
Stacy or something.
Stacy, yeah. When Stacy's very much like, nice to meet you, and she's kind of cold now, And I'm like, oh, she's fucking the teacher. Oh, she's definitely gonna die horribly in this movie.
And she's the only one who survives.
I know. I was like, well, all right, you got me. You got me on that one.
It is a well-established aspect. You can't have sex in horror movies. She is the only character who has sex in the movie, and she dies. Or, she survives.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, there is another person she has sex with.
And he does get killed. Yeah. But yeah.
No, but when, the Cassie.
I don't know. Maybe Candyman 2 is about her. Who knows?
It's been so long since I've seen 2. I don't think I ever even actually got around to seeing 3. But no, I remember 2. I remember watching 2, but I don't remember it. So again, if I watch something and I can't remember it, it doesn't really bode well for me. Yeah. But who knows where I was at in my life at that point? I don't know what I was kind of latching onto. That does tend to paint whatever you're watching. Then we get Virginia getting checked into Hotel California because Cassie dead. Yeah. And also, that is the bluest dead body that I have ever seen.
That was something.
That was remarkably blue.
They really played it up. This is a corpse.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That moment where Candyman goes for the smooches with the mouthful of bees.
Not cool. Not cool at all, dude.
I don't even know how they did that shot.
That really unnerved me too, because it wasn't even, because especially at the end where they're both covered in bees, and like I was looking, like as that scene was going, I was looking hard, like is that a mannequin head that they covered in bees?
Same, but then his eyelids tremble, and I'm like,
yeah,
what?
And same with her. Like both of them are literally covered in bees, and they are moving, so it's not, I'm like, what? How? What? Why? That's the big question.
Before the implementation of CG to be doing that, like, yes, the idea of that happening is unnerving. Watching it literally happening, that's what ups the creep factor. Like, it really does. The computer-generated effects, they don't hit the same way because it's not actually happening. That was actually happening.
Yeah.
Like, big difference.
I hope Todd and Madsen got really, really big paychecks for this movie, because holy shit.
Well, they got solid-ass careers from it.
Well, that's for sure. Yes, there is that.
I mean,
yes.
Tony Todd, I don't know what he did before this. I'll check that out. But no, he had a full-ass career after this.
No, for sure, yeah.
This is what I think the 2021 Candyman is about. He's feeding baby Anthony blood.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's the thing I think that's what the 2021 version is going to be about.
Interesting.
Because baby Anthony is the main character.
Okay.
And you remember that episode of Black Mirror where Anthony Mackie shows up and they're the video game characters?
Oh, I haven't seen that one. I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, well, the dude that stars in that episode with him, he's the one who plays baby Anthony. Not
Interesting. Okay.
Baby anymore, but
right, yeah.
He's the one who plays that character, and I'm really curious about this because I really think that scene of him feeding Anthony blood, I think that's where it is. And then we get that bad nurse. No, I hated this dude. Where are we going? We're going to Disneyland.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate that.
The fact they put a lot of time in making sure that we hated this guy and didn't kill him. Like, come on.
Kind of weird, right?
Yeah, like that's
usually you'd think that would be the director cameo or something like that,
or something like that. Yeah, that's you. That like there's always
the director didn't give himself a line in this. I thought it was kind of weird, but I liked it.
Yeah, I mean maybe he didn't. I mean he just wanted to do the Alfred Hitchcock thing, just be singing it and not have to say anything.
I think it's a good way to go. If you don't have the charisma of Stan Lee, you can't know your skills.
Yeah,
like that is a big part of it. And then we find out that she's been in a drug coma for a month. Oh, wait, hold on. On to Dr. Burke, played by Stanley DeSantis, which you know him from a ton of things throughout the 90s.
He looked really, really familiar. I could not place him, though.
That's the thing. He's one of those guys. He is, but he is in a ton of things. I should have wrote some of them down. We find out she's been in a drug coma for a month. And then we see the video of her screaming about the killer, murder, he's under the bed. Which, how did they do that shot? That's what I want to know.
Oh, when he floated down on top of her, like in that scene? It's a good question.
Because you didn't see any evidence of a harness and wires coming out from the top. If there was a platform underneath, you would have seen it from the second shot, and you would have seen it kind of like pushing in his chest a little bit or something like that. It straight up looks like the camera was turned sideways and they filmed it like that, and she was like the bed was like up against the wall standing like that.
It's possible. I imagine
they ran in, so that's not what they did. I don't know how they did that shot.
It could have been a combination of all three. It could be that they used like every one of these depending on which position the camera was in, and then just edited it together really well.
Good. I really enjoyed that scene though, because one, I was wondering how they did that, but two, Tony Todd is creepy, man.
Yep.
When he wants to put that on, he has it. So back into the hospital, She's screaming. He's under the bed. There's too much going against her. She she successfully summons him again, and then, well, bye, Doc, because that just instant death right there.
Yeah,
and you can absolutely see the harness that he's attached to when they yank him out the window. Mm-hmm. It is clear as day.
That was funny. That was kind of funny. But it still kind of worked. It was still kind of
cool
to see
like a scary horror moment. But it was the practical effects, like the aspect of it, is what made it awesome. I completely agree with you. They didn't even try to hide that harness.
No.
And also the balls on Tony Todd for being yanked out of that window because that was that high.
That was him. That was not a stuntman. We get a clear shot of his face before he shoots backwards into a window.
Yeah. So. Tony Todd, you deserve what you got, sir.
Certainly.
She escapes to find we talked about this. She escapes and finds some and then goes back. And then the fact that she decides to play in to her own supposed craziness, that put a smile on my face that did not disappear. That whole scene, I was so happy. But I got to give Xander Berkley some serious credit. He played scared. He played terrified very well.
Both of them.
The young actress that was there playing Stacy, she sucked. All she did was like all that overacting nonstop. It was terrible. Xander Berkley gave a subtle performance showing how completely terrified he was, and that's kind of the problem. You don't put a good actor in the same scene with a bad actor. Like, I feel bad for the actor who played Stacy. So bad, in fact, that I did not look up her name because I knew I was going to be tearing into her and I didn't feel like doing that. Kind of rough. The student... I mean, come on. She comes in, get out of my house. She turns around and she's like...
I thought it was interesting. I thought it was interesting how quickly she poured it on, because it very much was like, okay, she thinks that she's like, in hog heaven now, because she's not just finally sleeping with the, she's been sleeping with him for a while now, but it's like now they're in like some sort of weird domestic bliss where she's moved in with him and she's painting his house her colors and all that sort of stuff. She's thinking that things are great, and then all of a sudden the ex-wife just showed up, which, by the way, the ex-wife that everyone believes brutally murdered 2 people already.
Including her own best friend.
Right. Like, okay, it makes sense that you would be immediately reduced to terrified tears at that moment, because it's like, oh, I am so fucking dead right now, is definitely what's going through her mind.
The only time that I bought Stacy's terror was when Virginia was handing her the phone. That was the only moment that I bought it, and I was like, you know what? I bet she's actually real world scared right now, because Virginia's bringing it.
Right, yeah. No, that's true. She really did, yeah.
I was so delighted with that. Such a smile on my face the whole time through that. But then, she dips. She knows there's nothing for me here. Back to the projects. I'm going to face off against Candyman. I loved that they found the murals depicting his full story.
Yeah.
I thought that was a clever way to go. Broke the art. Go ahead.
Well, I think they were trying to imply that he painted them, because they did even say at the beginning that he was a painter. And
that's how he got killed. I missed that. I completely missed that.
Yeah.
Good call.
So
very good call.
While he's been kind of occupying this sort of abandoned space in the projects, he's been painting his own story on the walls.
Awesome. Completely missed that. Makes me love it even more. Good job. I completely missed that. And then we were talking about this earlier. She finds him lying down, stabs him, and then he rips the hook out, and then that tiny little comical spurt to come after.
Right.
That might be my favorite moment of the movie. So dumb. So dumb. I think I'm one of those people who falls for horror tricks, and I love them.
Hey, why not?
Dude, if it makes me love it even more, how is that a bad thing?
I did just describe how much I loved the Modern Times ripoff in the movie we were just talking about. I was like, classic comedy, love it, let's do it.
There you go. I mean, it works for who it works for. Yep. Seducing her into that partnership, and again, I know I said this earlier because I can't get it out of my head. That bee kiss.
Yeah,
Dude,
it's so...
those were
it
not
was,
mannequins. Those were real bees in Tony Todd's mouth. He's like, I thought it was a mannequin. I wanted it to be a mannequin.
I know, right?
But,
It's like,
oh
please,
my God.
help me, no one is in real danger here. Just for a 5-second shot in a movie, you didn't actually cover someone in bees, did you? Yep. No, we fucking did. We fucking did.
Completely did. Completely did. Oh my God. Saving baby Anthony, and then little Jake sees only the hook. What a great way to finalize our characters.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, we getting them into their final position and everything like that to where what's going to happen. Having Jake be the one who takes out Helen and Candyman. Like, I need
which
to
is
go,
which was entirely part of
21
Candyman's plan, because it was Jake becoming a non-believer is what started this whole thing on the course that it went on. Is that he was trying to, he wanted their faith back, specifically Jake's, and boom, there it was. Like, even as Candyman is being burned to death by Jake, he's getting what he wants out of that.
True, and Jake sees Candyman's body. Like, he sees the corpse, so he sees the burnt skeleton. So I think that might actually concrete that he was a supernatural character, not a ghost.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Something
but there are sequels,
probably,
so I think that's like that. Like, I don't like.
Well,
and
even
how that's gonna go.
I mean, and I don't know if Clive Barker writes everything in the same universe the way like Stephen King does, or someone like that. But he, what was it called? Nightwalkers. He's got another like novella that basically is like the Society of the Monsters, and I cannot remember what it is called.
Oh, dude, like I'll like find it. I'd love to read that. That sounds
okay.
That sounds like it's up my alley.
So it's possible that Candyman was like one of them, one of these creatures from his like monster society kind of thing. If he writes, I don't know if that's how he actually writes. If he does that sort of like all universe thing, like Stephen King does.
Right. Well, let's check it out. She escapes just far enough for the ability to save baby Anthony, and there was a little piece of me to where her scars and what the fire did to her at the very end, a little piece of it bothered me, but I backed it up and I looked, and the fire actually started at her lower back, and it did climb into her hair.
Right,
so
yeah.
the way that her scars wind up and everything like that, it actually made sense to the way that they set up that injury to occur. Very, very nice.
Yeah.
Very good job. I'm throwing a lot. Like I am going to throw a lot of praise to Rose on this one. Bernard Rose, the director and writer. He did a very good job. I am a little curious about this moment, though. We get this empty ass funeral where literally all we have is oh crap, what was his name? The smarmy guy from the dinner party.
Yeah, I didn't catch his name either, but yeah, the other professor. So we got
Michael Culkin.
Right, yeah. So we got the smarmy professor, husband professor, girlfriend is there.
Film student. Or not
Yeah.
film student, the student.
Right, yeah. The student that her husband's been sleeping with is at her funeral. That's classless, if you ask me.
Yeah, that is highly classless. But this moment is straight out of Schindler's List.
Yeah.
Like I am curious if Bernard Rose, like if that's in the book or if Bernard Rose like took that from Schindler's List, because she is the reason that they are all alive and safe.
Yeah.
One, her getting attacked caused the wannabe Candyman to get arrested, which like took out the person who was running the overlords of the project. Then she actually like saved like one of their own, and then by proxy Candyman died. So like I can see how maybe the community would kind of look at her as a little bit of a martyr.
Schindler's List came out the following year.
Never mind.
Yep.
Absolutely never mind. Schindler's List was 93?
Yep.
Man, the black and white aspect of that movie tosses me.
It really, yeah, it really does. It does throw you off there.
I mean, not like I didn't think it was like from the 40s or 50s. I thought it was like a 88 movie or something, but
oh, sure, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Man, wow. Then we get Xander Berkley back at the condo, everything, and he is reminiscing and regretting because now he believes her.
Yeah.
After watching that whole community come to her funeral and all that, like the realization over everything, now he believes her, crying, regretting.
I don't know if he believes her. I guess he would have to believe.
Think he did.
Because otherwise the curse wouldn't have affected. But what I got was just remorse. Like now that she's actually dead, and he does realize that maybe to a certain degree she wasn't as bad because all those people came to give thanks. She never did try to convince him that Candyman was real. She just tried to convince him that she wasn't the killer. So I guess
Well, I mean, by proxy, if she's trying to convince him of her innocence, she would have to be convincing him that Candyman is real. Like I'm not the one killing it. It's this supernatural person who's doing So even if she wasn't directly asking him to believe her, she needed it.
Yeah. And there was, one way or another, he's feeling genuine remorse and regret and guilt. Yes.
Pulls her name as an attempt to summon her. Very bad call because it worked.
Yeah, I don't know if he was summoning her. I feel like that was just kind of more again, it was the guilt. Like the same way someone would just kind of sit there. No, because think about how, first of all.
Then why would he turn the light off and stare into the mirror?
Because he's fucking depressed.
That's literally the legend, though. Like, you say the name 5 times, turn the light off, and
No, but that's the point, is that it's kind of like, because also at the same time, while he's doing that, the chick nicks her finger and drops a little blood on the meat in the kitchen. So they're basically putting together a line of coincidences of how the urban legend is started, where he's saying her name. He's basically calling it Mama, I'm so sorry. Mama, I didn't mean to.
The first 3 where he's like, oh, Helen. But the final 2 were intentional.
Okay, maybe.
I feel because I hear where you start with that, but then he looks into the mirror and then he's like, Helen. And then he cuts the light. So whether it started like that, I do believe it's the depression, everything like that, oh, Helen. But the way it ends, it was a straight up summoning.
Maybe. Okay.
Then, oh my God, the absolute worst part, worst acting of the movie. I am severely convinced that Stacy was sleeping with the director because what the hell? Every other performance in this movie was rock solid. Except Stacy. And that could have been intentional. That could have been because she was supposed to be younger.
And it did seem to be, a pretty gratuitous choice to have her not wearing a bra in that scene.
Oh, well, yeah. That was, I knew you were going to bring that up. I knew it.
How could that be ignored? I mean, come on.
You really can't. I know. It was just way, way too gratuitous.
Yeah.
I mean, I like nice boobs. I'm a normal human being.
I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that was a weird moment to choose that.
When your boobs are distracting from the entire story, apparently I've reached that age of life. Get your boobs out of my story. When did that happen?
Look, I wasn't even going that far. I was going, look, this should have been in the painting scene. That's where that should have not the screaming bloody scene. In the painting scene, then they would have been really appropriate there because it would really have added to Virginia's "get the fuck out of my house" attitude. Get your tits out of my house.
That was kind of a thing. That was technically that wasn't nudity. That was something. I don't know how you would qualify that, but the other 2 examples of nudity in this, completely tasteful.
Oh yeah,
real world and understandable. When she is taking her clothes off at the police station when she's covered in blood, that is there to make us feel uncomfortable for her, and it worked.
Yep.
The bathtub, well, those are just boobs in a bathtub, and it was a nice horror movie.
It was not, definitely not played off for sexiness. It was more of a vulnerability moment for her.
Thank you. That's what it was. That was the thing with the Stacy having the little the student, all that. Hers was gratuitous.
Yeah.
The other
and
two,
poorly placed, yes.
very much keyed into the story, and it explained the character, and it put you in the right situation for that. I just wanted Stacy to die, and she's the only one who lived.
But sometimes
apparently when you break all the rules, that's how you win.
Yeah, no. Yep.
Okay, so final thoughts on 1992 Candyman.
Final thoughts. Well, as I've said before, I do not like horror movies, but I respect them. And
fair.
This is definitely a very respectable one. If you are a fan of horror movies and you have not seen this, you are missing out, for sure.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. That's kind of where I stand on that one.
All right. So, where do you put it?
Oh, I mean, would I say it's a must-see?
Would you?
That's a difficult one for me. I guess if you are a fan of horror, then yes. If you are a horror fan, then this definitely is a must-see. Because it is too. I mean, well, for one thing, for sure, it is iconic. Like I've said before, horror fans that I know put this right up there with all the big franchises among their favorites. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're still making new ones attaching to it. The lore, continues to build, and like I said, it's based off of Clive Barker, who is, probably one of the single most imaginative and creative horror writers that I'm aware of. Anyway,
I'm gonna have to look into because I've seen a lot of movies based off of his work, never read his work. Now I think I'm gonna have to go check out his actual work because
let me see if I can find the title of that one.
Is the book not better than the movie?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
That doesn't happen. All right, so
Nightbreed. That's the one I was trying to remember.
Nightbreed?
Nightbreed, all one word.
Okay. Here's where I'm kind of taking it. The fact that you struggle even that much with whether it's a must-see or not kind of guarantees it's automatically going on the must-see list. You are not a horror fan and you struggled that much to decide whether this horror movie belongs on a must-see list. That kind of throws it onto the must-see list.
That's a very good point, actually. Yes.
That's kind of because obviously if you're a horror fan, you've already seen this.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's definitely very influential, yes.
Yeah. So I absolutely am putting Candyman on the must-see list. Kind of nice. It's a good week. We got 2 must-sees.
Yeah, not bad. And they're both 9 to 5 is more than a decade older, but they're both kind of from that same era-ish. Mm-hmm. Ish. Yeah, 92 is technically still the 80s, I think. Yeah.
You're still in 80s film style.
Yeah.
That's definitely true. Everybody who was making films studied at the very least in the 80s. Mm. So you're still in 80s style. The 90s style hadn't actually kicked in yet.
Yeah.
All right. So that is going to bring a close to this portion of it.
We burned through this one fast.
I know. I'm my future me is so happy at looking at the 3-hour timestamp. So much better than almost 6 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, my God. But next week, this is going to be a good one. We have a special announcement. We are going to have director Nicholas Genie and writer Eddie Zadanache coming on the show to discuss a movie called Matt's Chance. Now, they have a new movie that is coming out called The Activated Man. Director Nicholas Genie is touring the country right now, hitting all the festivals with this movie, The Activated Man. Doc, this movie has been nominated for 24 awards. It's won 23.
Whoa. Holy shit.
This, I think, I'm putting some faith, I might be putting some faith in this one, that this is going to be the movie that is going to get Nick into the household. Okay.
I don't suppose, is it too much to ask that we're going to get a proof copy to watch before the show, or?
So the movie, that's the thing. He's shopping it around to festivals right now, but he has a limited theatrical release set for the middle of December. So When it gets closer to December, oh, maybe we'll see what happens. But I mean, the fact that we're having him on the show, he is going to be our first guest director that's coming on the show.
Big day.
When the Activated Man comes out, we're gonna I'm going to assume that we're going to be covering it, and he'll probably come back on the show. You know, unless we tank it next week, which I kind of doubt that's going to happen. But
oh, you had to say it out loud, didn't you?
oh yeah, see, you got to steer into the jinx. You got to steer into it, and then you just gotta that was you just gotta. So Matt's Chance, real quick, just for the audience. Matt's Chance is a movie, basically a day in the life of kind of a failure character played by Eddie Furlong. Unfortunately, when Eddie was really hard, when he was in his really hard years. So we're going to get kind of a special Eddie Furlong performance because this was when he was in his hard years and they aren't here anymore. So this is this is going to be kind of a weird niche performance to watch. And also, this is the movie that I was talking to you about, where your favorite Lois Lane gives a lap dance to the kid from T2.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay. All right. Yes. It should be fun to watch. Yeah.
I know. I really want to do a react. I do want to actually watch that one with you just so I can be there when you see that scene.
Okay.
Dude, this movie, it's got Margot Kidder, it's got Eddie Furlong, it's got Marshawn Lynch.
Okay.
It's a good one. It's a fun one. And it's been a while since I've seen it, so I'm really looking forward to seeing it again. But because of that, we are only going to be covering the one movie next week because we're going to have the director and the writer with us, so we want to be able to give that as much time and as much focus as we can.
So the one movie, and then we're going to interview them after talking about the movie. Okay. All right. I'm down with that. That's fine, because I was just realizing I don't know where my movie list is. I
do have my option for you for the week after, though, if you just still want to do that.
We'll save it. We'll save
All right.
it. Surprise me.
All right. So next week we will be covering Matt's Chance and a little bit of preview because we're pushing out for The Activated Man, directed by Nicholas Genie. We'll see you then.
Thanks for watching.